Hi lovelies! Today is the day that I share with you the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me in my whole entire life, as well as the big blessing, the biggest blessing. So keep watching. Before I delve into this story that I'm sure by the title you're wondering what's going on, as well as my intro, I would just like to say it is the Christmas season and it is the perfect time to be sharing miracles with you guys. And so I thought, why not invite other channels who have had a miracle happen to them, like myself, to share these stories with you. So there's some really great channels involved in this collaboration, and the only requirement was that it had to be a true story. So none of this is fake, guys, and I want you guys to be the judge. Do you guys think this is a miracle? Do you think it's a coincidence? Go ahead on everybody's channel after you're done watching this and let them know what you think. Guys, this is huge. I am so excited. I do a variety of videos on this channel, and I don't always just get to sit with you and open up with you and tell you stories. So this is a story time. It's my second one about something that's happened in my life, and this is so dear to me. If you are already a subscriber, I love you very much. Thank you so much. If you haven't hit the bell, make sure you do that so you get notified of all my videos. And then if you're not, go ahead and hit subscribe. It's free, and hit that bell too. And my miracle is a miracle straight from God. Whether you believe in that or not, that's what I believe. So without further ado, let me tell you guys what happened. The story involves my daughter, Tasia. Tasia is 12 years old now, and that is 100% by the grace of God. So when I was pregnant, I was 19 years old, and I wasn't expecting to have a baby. I had just been signed for backup dancing for artists, so my mind was, you know, kind of in that sort of focus. You know, I just wasn't thinking about having a baby. And all of a sudden I had this dream, okay? This dream that I was pregnant. Not only was I pregnant with a little girl, and her name was Tasia. And I saw her. I didn't see her face, but I was talking to her in a crib, and I could see her curls in her hair, and she was kind of face down. And I was talking to her and just kind of, you know, rubbing her back, and it was so real. And I remember waking up, and the dream just stuck with me so much, and I was like, what the heck am I dreaming about having a baby? Like, first of all, that's super weird, and why can't I shake this dream? Like, why not? So at the time, my new boyfriend, who's actually my ex-husband, Tasia's father, we had only been intimate one time using protection. I couldn't shake this dream. I had to let him know. Just in conversation, I was like, I had this really weird dream. I just kind of mentioned to it, and he's like, oh, that's weird. My sister said she had a dream a baby was coming to the family, which was also weird because his parents weren't going to be having a baby and his siblings were young. So that freaked me out. I was like, I need to get a pregnancy test. But it didn't freak me out to the point that I actually thought I was pregnant. It just was like, I need to just clear my thoughts of this whole thing. So we actually went to Pizza Hut, and I brought a pregnancy test. That's how casual it was. Like, there was no way we were pregnant. We were safe and everything like that. I go to the bathroom at Pizza Hut. Again, 19 years old, maybe not the smartest place to take a pregnancy test. I go there, and like immediately, man, like immediately, you know how like you think you have to wait to see if you're pregnant? No, I did not have to wait. I was pregnant, okay? Like pregnant, like pregnant. And I'm like, I was in shock. I was just totally in shock. Like, I cannot even tell you guys the words that came out of my mouth when I actually told him. Like, I'm sure I must have said I was pregnant, but here's what I remember. I remember him sitting there, me sitting there, and the waitress coming up like 3 different times. And again, I don't know if she was speaking to us, but we weren't even acknowledging her. Like, we weren't even speaking to her. And she would just say, I'll come back. So we didn't order anything. We just sat there for a long time. When I found out I was pregnant and I'm sitting there with what seemed like an hour, it could have been 5 minutes, I knew that meant I was having a baby. Like, I just knew if I ended up pregnant, I'm going to be keeping the child, I'm gonna love the child, I'm gonna raise the child, and that's just what I would do. So to me, I was like, I'm a mother now. His response was very good. He just said, whatever you wanna do, I'll support you. It took him a while to get there, I think anyways. And then that's what he said. So that was good. Like I said, I had the dream. It was a baby girl. Her name was Tasia. So when I went to go find out the sex, I knew like 99.9% it was a girl. I knew I was pregnant from the dream, so why would the dream be wrong with the sex? And I knew her name was gonna be Tasia too. So I went there, sure enough, they're like, you're having a girl. And I was so excited. I remember just jumping for joy at that point. I think you have to wait 4 months or 20 weeks in Canada, 21 weeks. So I was just jumping for joy that I'm gonna have a little girl, and I quickly came to terms with the fact that I was going to be a very young mom, and I was very excited to be having a little girl. At the time, Tasia's father was not a believer in God. In fact, he said he wouldn't step foot in a church at that time. That has since changed, but at the time that is relevant. So I had a dream, baby girl named Tasia, found out I'm pregnant with a baby girl. Then the 8th, so I was due on the 10th of the month that my daughter was born, and it was the night of the 8th, so between the 8th and the 9th. And we're sleeping, and her father wakes up, and he's just sweating bullets. And he's like, there's something wrong with the baby. And he's like touching my belly, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the baby. I would know, I feel fine. Like, he's like, no, there's something wrong with the baby. Something's gonna happen to the baby. And I'm like, what the heck is this crazy person? And he's like, I had a dream. Something's gonna happen to her, oh my gosh. And he's like, you need to call your mom. I need to call my mom, and we need to get them to pray. And it's like 3 in the morning. And my mom's up at 3 in the morning, but his mom isn't. I just thought this was so weird. And he looked, you know, white as a ghost. And I was like, hey, I'm not gonna argue. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can pray. So this is someone who did not believe in God, did not want to step foot in a church anymore, saying we need to pray for the baby. So I still wasn't totally freaked out, but then he described his dream, and he said, you know, we went to the hospital, and we got to the hospital, and you were laying on the bed, and the cupboards opened up, and things started flying and attacking the baby's belly. And I'm like, what do you mean things? He's like, just everything in the cupboards. Everything came out and was just hitting your stomach and, you know, trying to kill the baby. I was like, okay, that's kind of freaky. So we called both the mothers, and we had them pray, and we prayed, and he actually prayed, which again was super weird because I was brought up a Christian, but like I said, at the time he was atheist, and obviously I had backslidden since I got pregnant and all that, but you know, I had that faith to pray and stuff, so it was really strange to see him praying, and I was like, okay, we're gonna pray. The next night, and I remember exactly what I was doing. I was sitting, watching A&E, like one of those, First 48 or something like that, and I was eating Lucky Charms. Don't judge me, y'all. I was 19 years old and pregnant. I did not have Google to freak me out about all the things you shouldn't do, and I was eating a bowl of Lucky Charms and loving it. You know, very due, the day before I was due, and I peed my pants. Okay, I didn't pee my pants, my water broke, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So again, not knowing much about anything, I thought I could sit on the toilet and wait for the water to stop breaking, but that was not the case. So he's like, come on, you've been in there forever, let's go. So I have to leave while my water's still breaking. We drive to another city where the hospital was, so it was about a 20-minute drive, and it was nighttime and it was snowing, and the dream at that point wasn't really in our heads because we're like, oh my gosh, we're having the baby, and we felt better after praying and things like that. We get to the hospital, and you know, they run some tests, they hook me up to the monitor where they're monitoring the baby's heart, and I think they're monitoring my heart and everything, and they're kind of waiting for me to have contractions. So I'm not dilated and I'm not having contractions, and I was there for like, I don't know, it must have been like 2 to 3 hours. Finally, the nurse, and I remember her name was Grace, she says, you know what, you're not having any contractions, your water's broke, you're not dilating, so we're gonna send you home and then come back when there's contractions. So I'm like, okay. So she's like, I'm just gonna go get a release form and I'll be right back. She walks out the room, and literally that second, the machine goes crazy. Like, it starts making a noise. I don't know what's going on. She heard it herself, so she came running back. And then she's like, did you just do something? Did you move or something? And I'm like, no, I'm just sitting still. So she's looking at it, and she runs out, then she gets somebody else, then they both are looking at the machine. Now I'm getting a little freaked out, and they're like, whatever. They're running around, they're talking, then they call my doctor, and because he was on call, he wasn't in there. It was late at night at this time, it's probably like 2, 3 in the morning. All of a sudden, like, they're like, you're having an emergency C-section. The baby's heart rate is, I don't know if they said gone or whatever, but it went from the baby's absolutely fine, you're fine, go home, get contractions to something's wrong with the baby, you're having an emergency C-section. So I'm like, what the heck? So it's just like totally over my head what's going on, and it was all happening so fast. I'm telling you, that emergency C-section went so fast. So I feel it was 15 minutes, and I remember getting wheeled out past my family. Like, my mom was there at that time and my little brother, and I'm just like, pray for me. Like, I was so scared. And then as I'm getting pushed into the ER or whatever, I started remembering that dream. And I was like, you know what? I was laying in the bed, fine, and you know, nothing obviously came out of the cupboards and flew at me, but all of a sudden, something happened to my baby. Like, that's just weird. So I was really freaked out because I could remember her dad's face the night before and how scared he was and how he woke up screaming, something's trying to kill the baby. And then that happened. I'm getting wheeled, and I'm like, I'm a mess. Like, I'm so scared. So that whole time they're doing the C-section, comment below if you've had a C-section or if your wife's had a C-section or you were born from a C-section. But I had no time to even think about what are they doing to me to this or that. I was only thinking about my baby. And they pulled out my baby, and I hear nothing. And I'm holding my breath. In that moment, guys, I know some of you have had that moment, and some of you haven't had a miracle outcome, and my heart breaks for you. Because that moment seemed like ages, I don't know how long, where you don't hear anything, and you hear the doctors shuffling around, and you know your baby's out of you, and there's hush hush. It's a scary moment. So I'm just saying, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Sometimes when I don't know what to say in words to pray, I just say his name. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And you know, there's a lot going on over there. You can hear them moving around and doing things and saying things to each other about what they need to do, and it's over my head. I just want to hear my baby cry. It feels like my baby hasn't cried for way too long, and I'm almost about to give up hope. And I hear the cry. Hear the cry. The best sound ever in the whole life. My daughter Tayshia's cry. So I take a big sigh of relief. Her dad takes a big sigh of relief. You know, they do all the things that need to be done. And they explain that what had happened was the cord was completely wrapped around her neck. Completely. And she had stopped breathing. So this all happened so fast. And so what they're saying is they think it was probably already tied around her neck. And then at that very moment when the machine went all crazy, she had turned or something or flipped to actually cut the circulation off of her neck. And then that was it. But here's the thing, guys, and this story isn't over. There's more to the story. There's a one final piece after that connects this all together. But anyways, here's the thing. That nurse, Grace, said, I'm just gonna go get a release form and you can go home. And as she left, that's when the machine went off. That means had she turned the machine off and then said, hey, you're not contracting so you can go home, or if any minute had been different, we wouldn't have been monitored. We never would have heard that something was wrong with the baby. All signs were pointing to her being a healthy baby. My full pregnancy was healthy up until that minute where everything changed. If we were not on that machine, we never ever would have known. And they said, had I been contracting, it would have likely been causing her not to breathe even more so. So all of these elements, me not contracting, me being on the monitor at the time I was monitoring, not being taken off, that is nothing short of a miracle of my baby girl, who God is not done with her yet. She has a purpose on this planet, and that is my story. However, like I said, there is one piece that ties this all together, guys. So that's miracle enough. Comment below if you think right now, where we are right now in this story, that's a miracle. Because I do. I think that would have been a miracle enough. But it gets better. So years later, I'm at my pastor's house and we're there for dessert. And he's like, what does Tayshia's name stand for? And then I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, what does it stand for? Like, it's a different kind of name. I haven't heard it very often. What does it stand for? It doesn't have a meaning. And I'm like, you know, I'm not really sure. And he's like, oh, like, cause he likes this meaning behind names thing. He's like, I bet you it has a meaning. I'm gonna go find out. So he goes out of the room and then he goes Googles it and he comes back and he goes, it means resurrection. Did you hear what I said? Her name means resurrection. And I think it's in Greek or Slavic. I always confuse the two, but I will write it here. And I'll actually, you know, I'm gonna read the definition. I'm gonna find that right now. I'm on a website here. Don't know if you guys can see that, probably not. What does Tayshia mean? Tayshia as a girl's name is pronounced Taysha, which is how we pronounce her name as well. That was very loud and clear in the dream. And it is of Greek origin, and the meaning of Tayshia is resurrection. Short from Anastasia, also see Taysha stuff. So cool, guys. My daughter literally was resurrected. She was born not breathing and she came back to life. Her name came to me in a dream. The pregnancy came to me in a dream. The fact that something was going to go down in the hospital came to her father in a dream. Prayer was there at the right time, and by the grace of God, the prayer was answered. And my baby is here today. Anyways, you guys gotta see my baby. She's getting ready for bed, but I'm gonna drag her in here, especially if you haven't met her before. Alright, if you're new to the channel, this is my beautiful, amazingly smart daughter, Tayshia.
Hi.
So how does it feel to be Tayshia, aka Resurrection?
I don't know. It just seems like a miracle that I'm like here today, and I'm glad.
I'm glad too. Yeah. I always say two things. God isn't done with you, and you're one stubborn kid. No. But thank you guys for listening to this story. I hope it lifted your spirits in this Christmas season, and glory be to God for my beautiful baby girl. If you have a miracle of your own to know, I would love to know it. Go ahead and comment below if you want to share there, or if it's too private to share there, you can find me on Facebook at Clueless Mama D and also other social medias. Make sure you check out the playlist below. There's going to be other fantastic stories, and I can't wait to check it myself, from some really cool channels that are also opening up about some true miracles. So comment below if you've ever had a miracle, and also even if you just know someone who has. Love you, lovelies!